Patrik Laine is getting ready to make the biggest pivot of his hockey career. What does Laine moving to center mean for the Blue Jackets? We find that out today on Locked on Blue Jackets.
You're Locked on Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked on Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, I'm your host, Hayden Heilshorn. With me is my co-host, Jay Foster. We're here to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of your favorite team and ours, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before we get going, we want to thank you for making this your first listen every day. Locked on Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms, YouTube, and the SiriusXM app. Patrik Laine played his last two regular season games at center. He mentioned his interest in taking over that position in the offseason, so now he's played 2 games at center. He's also brought it up to media in the offseason. What do you think of the idea, Jay? First of all, how you doing, man? How's the weather out there in the UK? Is it raining?
It'll shock everyone. It's raining.
Oh man,
it rained a lot yesterday. It's raining less today, but it's still pretty rainy. We had summer. Summer was like 4 days of sunshine last month. It's fall here now. So, to answer your question about Patrik Laine, the short answer is I don't know. The long answer is I think that this is something that the Blue Jackets would be remiss to not at least have as an option. We talked about it a little bit, kind of either off mic or last episode. I don't remember. Well, anything ever really, but having more than one guy on a line that can play the position is never going to be a bad thing. You know, you keep Laine at wing. Maybe he does a couple of like reps at center during morning skate or practice or whatever. Keep him fresh. Having a guy that can win faceoffs if your main guy gets kicked out is never going to be a bad thing. You know, do I think they should do it? That's a whole other question. But I think it's entirely possible that they could keep that open. But I do think a lot of Patrik Laine's game is better on the wing.
Okay, so just from an initial reaction to what you just had to say there, it seems like you are kind of taking an approach that I first took to this when I saw that this was a thing back in March. I was like, what are we doing, guys? Like, come on. Like, this is pathetic. This is, beer league hockey stuff, mixing and matching things just because the season's over. This is just sad. This seems like we're trying to tank, which at that moment I was also like, but maybe we should be doing that. Maybe we should be trying to play as bad as possible. But then, Jay, I watched a couple of the games. I mean, the first game was atrocious from the face-off circle.
Okay, but in fairness, everyone was real bad in that game. I knew you were going to say this, and I don't think Patrik Laine had a very good game, his first game at center. I also think everyone else was just god-awful in that game. Like, looking at the stats, first of all, they lost 7-2. Second of all, I don't think anyone had positive. Oh no, I tell a lie. In terms of 5v5, Patrik Laine actually bad at the face-off dot, pretty good at everything else. His possession numbers were really good, and the players he was with, Marchenko and Gaudreau, were also very good, above 65%, course 4 percentage for all of them. But yes, I agree that the Vegas game was not ideal for many reasons.
And also for many teams this year, the Vegas game was not ideal because they did win the Stanley Cup. So it turns out that was a pretty elite team that Patrik Laine decided to play center against for the first time. And as you said, it sounds like he held his own. He had a positive plus-minus. I think he had a couple assists that game. And the only thing that really stunk was the face-off dot, which, yeah, you're losing that extra possession, but even still, you just proved to us just there that you can have a 17% face-off percentage and still have a positive plus-minus. So it's not the end-all be-all. Oh, he can't win in the face-off circle, so he can't play center. But also, you should probably know how to win face-offs. And that being said, game 2, the face-off percentage went way up. I think he was above 50%. I want to say it was like 55.
Yeah, 60,
Yeah,
65%. I just opened it. Yeah, 62.5%. So yeah, way improved. Playing a worse team probably helps. Um,
played the Caps. Yep.
yeah. That being said, there is a lot of noise out there about, or like a lot of advanced stats guys, and I've talked to a bunch of them about this. Like face-offs just aren't that important. Are they like? Do they help? Sure, but do you take a guy who is good at face-offs and bad at everything else, or do you take a guy that's good at everything else and bad at face-offs? You know, um, you get guys that guys are face-off like face-off specialists. I think Jonathan Taves had the like for the past 10 years, I think collectively Jonathan Taves has had the highest face-off win percentage in this league, So like it's not nothing, but I don't think it carries as much weight as a lot of people think it does. And by a lot of people, I mean like, the average layperson, which is, up to and including people like us. This was a thing that I was very kind of interested in. I was like, well, winning a face-off must help, obviously, because you have possession, But I think there's more to it, How many times have we seen a Blue Jacket win a face-off this season, and then 3 seconds later they immediately turn the puck over? It's a good start, but there needs to be more than just winning the face-off,
Agreed. Yeah, of course. We just have already mentioned multiple times here, winning the faceoff is not the end all be all. Can he play center? It is one of those things I do believe is also pretty easy to practice. Mm-hmm. I mean, is that fair to say as well? Like, hey, Patrick, you really want to play center? Well, take 100 face-off, take 100 drops today. You and Roslovic, like, get over there. Let's take 100 drops. Like, if he works on that every day, I'm sure over time he can pick up how to win a face-off. And there's always going to be players that are going to be better than him at it. That's just kind of the reality. Certain players are really, really good at that kind of thing. Now, talking about other areas of Patrik Laine's game outside of the face-off circle, once the game actually gets going, do you think that Patrik Laine can work at center? Because I tend to think it can. I think it gives him a whole new area of the ice to look at. It gives him more responsibility on defense, which I never think is a bad thing whenever a player is like, hey, I'd like to take on this responsibility. I'm sure he obviously knows what comes along with that. He also has to be willing to, get a little dirtier on the boards. So many players have just made so much of being talented along the boards, including Sidney Crosby. I mean, that guy it seems like he never loses a board battle. And I feel like Patrik Laine is actually really good at that. I think that's a very underrated part of Patrik Laine's game, is how much he's just able to dominate the boards. He uses that big, 6'4" frame to just he doesn't lose the puck very easily. It's hard to win a battle against Patrik Laine. So I think getting him in the mix more on the ice would be a good thing. But what are some other areas that you either think he excels in already at center, or you think he needs to improve in if he is going to play that position?
So for me, I think the issue that I have, or I say issue because it's the best word I can think of right now. The thing for me with Patrik Laine at center is he good at it? Yes, I think he could be. I think, like you said, he has all of the right attributes. It gives him a little bit more defensive responsibility, which, by the way, again, maybe this season we can end that Patrik Laine is bad defensively conversation, because he was one of the better Blue Jackets with possession numbers this season. And he's not just a goal scorer. I think he has more facets to his game. However, Patrik Laine has the potential to be a top 5 goal scorer in this league easily. If you put him at center, I think what that does is that it takes away some of his offense, and he has to be able to distribute it in other places. So like you said, he had a couple of assists in the Vegas game, I think it was. Yeah, he had 2 secondary assists in the Vegas game. So he's had secondary assists on both goals. And then in the Capitals game, the overtime win for the Blue Jackets, he had 1 primary assist. So 3 assists over 2 games. That seems pretty good. But it feels like there's been a distancing between him and goal scoring when he plays center. And again, I wanna before we kind of move on, because I think we're gonna do that in a second. This is a very, very small sample size. We are looking at literally 2 games here, you know? So this is not us saying, well, Laine should play center because of this, 40 minutes worth of hockey that he played in March on a terrible team. And then I believe he immediately stopped playing after the second game at center because he got injured again. But it's also not, it's just such a small sample size that you can't draw any real conclusions. What you can do is say, okay, he was good at this and this, but is he good at this because he was playing center, or is this something that he does already?
It's very, very fascinating, right? Because position changes, they don't necessarily happen in hockey all the time, but they do happen. Like, we know Boone Jenner went from winger to center. We know Jack Roslovic has kind of moved around. And we'll talk about how this is going to affect the rest of the roster if this change goes through. And also, who are the guys that he's going to be playing with if he's going to be down the middle? We'll talk about all that here in just a second. First, I want to tell you guys about our partner at AG1, the daily foundational nutritional supplement that supports a whole body health. I drink it literally every day, guys. I gave AG1 a try because I was getting so tired of taking supplements and wanted just a single solution that supports my entire body and covers all the nutritional bases I need every day. I wanted better gut health. I wanted a boost in energy. I wanted some immune system support. I hated taking pills, vitamins, and I just wanted a supplement that actually tastes really, really good. So I drink AG1 in the morning and the afternoon before working out. And it makes me feel unstoppable, ready to take on my day, ready to go, like I'm doing something good for my body, like I'm giving my body the nutrition it craves, like I'm covering all my nutritional bases. It is a fantastic drink to get my day going. If a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplemental routine, then try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/NHL network. That's drinkag1.com/NHL network. Check it out. All right. And now we're back here with Locked On Blue Jackets talking about whether Patrik Laine is going to succeed at center, whether he should even be moving to center, and if he does, who is he going to be playing with? So why don't we just answer that question that I teased back there, talking about who is Patrik Laine good with at center? Personally, I don't really want to break up the chemistry that he has with Kirill Marchenko or the chemistry that he has with Johnny Gaudreau. I think just when those two guys, if we can get all 3 of those guys on the ice, now I know that's kind of what it would take. Patrik Laine would need to play center to get all 3 of those guys on the ice. But I feel like those 3 together is just a very elite top line that can do some damage in the NHL. And you just pointed out back there, they had a positive plus-minus against the Stanley Cup champions. Let's build off that. I know it's just 1 game, but if I had to pick night 1 roster, Patrik Laine's playing center, I'm going to put Marchenko and Gaudreau as his wingers. What say you, Jay?
Yeah, that's about where I am as well. I was kind of looking at a couple of line combinations. I can pull up the lines at night. So yeah, he spent at 5 versus 5, he spent 12 minutes with Gaudreau and Marchenko, and then he spent 2:21 with Liam Foodie and Marchenko. I assume that was some kind of weird line change or an icing or something. I don't know. But I like that Gaudreau, Laine, Marchenko line a lot. And I think what that does as well is that opens up, if you can move Patrik Laine successfully to center and have him play center with those guys, what that does is that opens up another spot in the top 6 wings, which is already a very busy place to be. You know, if you have as your top 2 centers, for example, Laine and Adam Fantilli, you know, then you've got Marchenko, Gaudreau, and Johnson as, I think, the locks for your top line and one half of your second line. And then you've got that space just opens up for, is it a guy like Voronkov? Is it a guy like, does Bunjana move to wing and get the job there? Does Igor Chinakov move there? Does Cole Sillinger switch to wing? You know, it gives them a lot of freedom in a way that they haven't really had. That being said, I still think that Laine is going to be better at the wing. And so I think this should be, it shouldn't be, we're going to move everyone else to wing because we're moving Laine to center. It's, okay, what if we move Bunjana to wing, for example? Because Bunjana is another guy, I think his game is way more effective on the wing than it is in center. He's good at face-offs. He's been a perfectly acceptable top 6 center for this team for the past couple of years. He's way better on the wing, I think. Do they move him to wing and get some, not diversity, what's the word I want?
Depth.
Versatility is the word I'm looking for. Do they get some versatility in their positions, you know? But yeah, no, I like the Gaudreau, Laine, Marchenko option a lot. I wouldn't hate putting Roslovic on his wing and having Laine at center. I think that could be something that they could play around with. But I also think that Jack Roslovic shouldn't be in the top 6. So that becomes its own question, you know? It's you've got to look at it and say, okay, is Patrik Laine one of the best 2 centers on this team? And if he's not, keep him at the wing. Is the short answer to my mini ramble.
Because if he's not one of the top 2 centers and he's going to play center, then that means he's going to have to be on the 3rd or 4th line, which Patrik Laine is too good of a player, I believe, and I think you believe that he's too good of a player to be in the bottom 6. He needs to be in the top 6 some way or another. Because, yeah, I don't know if he's going to be better than Fantilli right away. He might be. I mean, I don't know. Again, we've only taken 2 games and tried to make just the world of that. It's really tough because we also haven't even seen Fantilli play in one NHL game. So it's going to be really tough. And these are questions that of course we can figure out. We got to figure them out soon, but we have time to figure it out. Pascal Vincent, I'm kind of grouping him in this issue as well because he was the one that first approved of this play to move Patrik Laine to center. Okay, well, it's up to you to work with him on that. You know, you're still on the coaching staff as of now, so continue to interview him on that stuff. Like, hey, how's it going? He's playing some center in these Cap City Elite League games, which I know he's not necessarily going against NHL talent in those games, but he's getting a little bit of work in at that. How's it going? How's that been doing? Have you been working on your face-offs at all? Those are all important questions. You also got guys on the wing coming back like Alexander Texier. He's a player that I think is good enough, has the talent to play in the top 6. What will he look like after taking a year off in the NHL? I have no idea. I doubt it'll be top 6 quality, but that, like, if Patrick is okay, maybe playing on the 3rd or 4th line at center the first couple weeks of the season, I'd be very interested to see what that looks like, and maybe letting some of these other wingers fill that top 6. But
then it comes back to, you're putting one of your star wingers, who you're paying $8 million this season, on the 3rd line just because you want to play him at center. You know, if Laine is not, this is kind of going back to what I was saying. If he's not one of the top 2 centers on this team at the end of training camp, keep him at the wing, because he is one of the top 2 wingers on this team easily. And I think moving him to center, yeah, you can see what you've got. And like you said, I think it's something that he needs to work on, maybe outside of game time specifically. And maybe with Pascal Vincent, or he takes some morning skates and he plays center. He's a guy that if you can, again, I don't see it as a long-term thing. I do see it as oh crap, everyone's injured. Our choices for top line center are Patrik Laine or Sean Corelli. At that point, I'm like, yeah, okay, fine, put Laine in.
The other question is too, Jay, and I'm just thinking about this as we're going along with it. Is Mike Babcock going to be okay with a player just being like, "Hey, I want to play center"? And what if Mike Babcock's like, "No, honestly, man, I really think we should keep you where you're at on that wing. You're doing a really good job there." Is that going to create a rift down the road between Patrik and Mike? I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things where I think this pivot for him could be really, really good. But also, it is a very sensitive time to be doing it. Even though it seems like, okay, the Blue Jackets are rebuilding. We know that the narrative around Columbus is that they've been dying to have elite centers for a long time. They haven't really had one ever. Fantilli's supposed to be that guy. Now Patrik Laine wants to be that guy too. Okay, let's give him a look. You know what? Let's give him a look. And in 2 games, he got better from game 1 to game 2, which is probably why he feels like he deserves a 3rd game and maybe even a 4th game at that. But at the end of the day, you have a new coaching staff coming. You have a new coach coming in. You have new players coming in. We can't just. You're absolutely right, Jay. We can't just finagle the whole roster just because Laine wants to play a different position. I don't know. It's a very, very hard thing to tackle because I personally think he could be very, very good. I think he could be better at center than he is on the wing, just because I feel like sometimes, and we know this, but when a player's on the wing, he can sometimes just disappear for games at a time, where it's like Patrik Laine has these 9-10 game like scoreless droughts, and we're like, what's going on? If he's playing center, maybe he's in the mix a little bit more, just because the center position in hockey just calls for you to be more involved in the play. Maybe that does help him end those streaks. But again, it's a very complicated issue because we're not just trying to do what's good for Patrik Laine. We're trying to do what's good for the whole team here. So when we come back, we will put all of our thoughts on this, again, very complex issue. Patrik Laine deciding to move from winger to center. It's very, very tough to tackle, and we're going to do more of that here in just a second. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. We are talking about Patrik Laine and his potential move to center. I do want to start off and say, great quote out of Patrik this past weekend. I think we all loved what he had to say about being in Columbus. And I'm trying to pull up the exact quote here. He said, "I just like being here, so I decided to come earlier. I've been enjoying it so far. I wouldn't have come here 2.5 months early otherwise. It's cool. I like it," end quote. Patrik Laine signed a 4-year deal. What was that, last season that he signed a 4-year deal? I can't remember. How many more years of Laine?
It was a couple of weeks after the Gaudreau signing.
I believe we got 3 more years of Laine left. So it's good to know that he likes it right now. I'm not saying that that's him signing a long-term deal after, but he likes it right now. And this is clearly a guy, Jay, that I don't know if you feel like this, but I feel like we, as Blue Jackets fans, are getting a whole different Patrik Laine than what Winnipeg Jets fans got. Like, this guy, I mean, obviously he's older. He's taking on more responsibility. He's playing in Columbus. He's helping start this Cap City Elite League thing. And he's wanting to fill a need for the team that requires a lot more effort. Center just requires a lot more effort than wing. Is it more about himself? Is it more about the team? I don't know. But I like this. I at least like the initiative out of Patrik Laine to move to center. How do you feel about his just overall initiative to do it?
Yeah, so first off, I want to just one brief correction to something you said in the last segment where you were like, yeah, he has these 9-10 game streaks where he doesn't have any points. Patrik Laine's longest pointless streak this season was 5 games. So I'm gonna just go ahead and say I don't think he is. You can call Patrik Laine many things. I don't think you can call him invisible. He had a really good season, despite being in and out of the lineup and, turbulence and playing with a million different players. And, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but again, he played with a lot of different guys this season. He wasn't as up and down in the lineup as a lot of guys. He was, either first or second line, and, he played anywhere from 17 minutes up to like 20 something. He had a couple of games where he played less than that. Again, I assume because of injuries, blah, blah, blah. But to answer your question, I like the initiative a lot. To me, it doesn't seem like he's not asking, hey, I want to move to center permanently. To me, it felt like he realized the team was struggling. He wanted to maybe make an impact on that. And he wanted to, there's another quote in that article, which, by the way, is on bluejackets.com. It's by Jeff Svoboda, Jackets Insider. He's been doing these really fun, summer spotlights. And he said, I've lost the quote immediately. He did acknowledge, though, that he's continuing to learn about the position should the chance to play in the middle present itself. I'm still open to it, Laine said. There's still things that need to be worked on. Obviously, it's a very responsible position overall. It's a lot of responsibilities, but if it ends up happening, I'm excited. If it doesn't, it doesn't, but at least I've done my homework on that, and we'll try to be fully prepared for that. But if it doesn't happen, I'll just play somewhere else. So to me, what that says is he wants to learn more about center in case this happens again. I don't see this as Laine being like, yeah, I want to move to center full time. I think he just wants to be versatile. He wants to add more tools to his toolbox, so to speak. And I think he thinks that playing center could help him be a better player on the wing, which I typically agree with. I think you see it a lot. I think there's a lot more that you can learn at center and take to the wing than you can learn on the wing and take to center. So yeah, I still go back to, I think Laine is going to be on the wing this season. I wouldn't be mad if he goes to center, but we'll see. Like I said, depends on what Mike Babcock says. Laine wouldn't tell anyone what they talked about. He had the off-season meeting with Babcock, but he didn't say what he'd talked about during this off-season meeting that they had. So who knows? I think what I would imagine is Laine said, listen, I am open to playing center, but if I'm on the wing, then I'm on the wing. Training camp could be interesting. Preseason could be interesting. Like you said, he's earned a couple more games at center, I think, just to see what they have. But I don't necessarily think they should be regular season games. Throw him out there in preseason. See what he's got, and then if it goes well, move along. Put him at center for an NHL game. An NHL game in October is way different than an NHL game in March for a lot of reasons. The points matter in October in a way that they didn't matter in March for this team anyway. For a team that's already way out of the playoffs and fighting for a lottery spot, it doesn't matter as much as a game in October when there's a lot more to play for, Playoff teams are decided by Thanksgiving.
Yeah. So going back to what I said about him playing on the third or fourth line, obviously I was just bringing that up for discussion's sake. I don't think that that's a thing the Blue Jackets should do. That would be because guys because we have other guys that are just amazing. Like, we cannot afford to have Laine long-term on the third or fourth line, obviously. And as you just said, and we say on the show multiple times, you're out of the playoff race by American Thanksgiving. So you need to make sure by that point you are still in the playoff race. So, yeah, you don't have tons of time to experiment with this is really what I'm getting at. I mean, I said that, but you also you don't. And listen, if he's not fully committed to playing center, and after you read that full quote there about him with Jeff Svoboda, who I love Jeff Svoboda, by the way, as a guy, just as a man.
No, we love Jeff on this podcast.
We love Jeff. But anyway, as you were bringing that up there, it struck me as, okay, it seems like saying that you're open to something does not sound like the same thing as I'm committed to getting better at that. So it sounds different already. I'm comfortable with Laine being on the wing. I'm comfortable with the center depth that we have right now because we did just draft hopefully what is the next long-term top line center in Columbus and Adam Fantilli. I think we all as this podcast and every Blue Jackets fan out there wants to see what does number 11 have in his bag first, because what if 11 and 29 on the ice is just meant to be? You know what I mean? Like we want to see what that looks like first.
And here's the thing as well is Adam Fantilli, again, we're tempering our expectations. We're tempering them so much. If Adam Fantilli is the player that we think he could be, and he is that number one center, putting a guy like Patrik Laine on his wing would not be the worst thing in the world, especially if Laine has spent the summer learning more about the center position. Because at the end of the day, Adam Fantilli is 18 years old. He's going to need support. Even if he does win that number one center job, having a guy like Laine there who, like we said, can take up some of that defensive responsibility if he needs to, and if he can win some face-offs. I don't know. College stats are basically impossible. So I don't know what Adam Fantilli's face-offs were like in Michigan off the top of my head. I'm
sure it was well above
struggles,
50%.
You have someone like Laine there on that line to fix it or to help out, God, it's still insane that he led all NCAA players as an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
Bonkers.
Yeah. He essentially won, he won the Hobie Baker this freshman year. I mean, that's pretty amazing. Which that hadn't been done since I believe Jack Eichel did that. And he was better than Jack Eichel. He had a higher point per game than Jack Eichel. He's been the best college player since Paul Kariya. I don't have his face-off percentage. I do have his face-off wins and losses for every individual game, and I'm not good enough at math to figure that out. But he was winning more than he was losing. Now, yeah,
face-offs in the NCAA are very different than face-offs in the NHL. So, again, we're going back to face-offs matter way less than people think they do. However, having a guy like Laine in there, like I keep saying, and I'm not going to say it again because I've said it about 17 times this episode, I think. Laine learning more about center and playing on the wing feels like the perfect way to handle this. He knows what to do if he ends up at center, gives the team that depth, that versatility, gives a guy like Adam Fantilli, or do they put Kent Johnson at center?
We drafted him hoping he would be that guy.
Exactly. So. He was drafted as a center. Again, he's another guy. I think his game is better on the wing. He didn't look out of place the games he played at center. But do you put Kent Johnson between Johnny Gaudreau and Patrik Laine, which was a line that I liked a lot when it happened this season? And again, have a guy like Laine there to be kind of that second wave of center-ish. There's got to be a better way to say second wave of center depth on a line. Something snappier, but
yeah.
Hopefully that makes sense. I feel like I'm just kind of saying a lot of words and hoping that they come out in the right order at the minute. But
I was going to say
Laine should be an elite. He should be an elite scorer and a support possession player, as opposed to the other way around. And I think if you play him at center, he becomes the other way around.
Yeah, and you know what? Laine is a quarterback on the left wing, man. He sees so much of the ice sometimes, and he is such a good player. Play him freaking anywhere. It does not matter where you put Patrik Laine. He could be rolling up to Nationwide with a goalie bag, and I'd be like, this is good. This is what I want to see. I love this guy. This guy's an all-around hockey player, but also at the end of the day, his best skill set is goal scoring. Like his slap shot, his wrist shot, his dangles. It's all, we need that to be on tilt 100% of the time. So I think at the end of the day, you and I both agree, can Patrik Laine play center? Yes. Should he play center? I maybe at the beginning of this episode was closer to, yeah, he should keep learning. But I think after a good deep dive here, we've come to the conclusion, no, we should keep Patrik Laine on the wing and keep working that center depth in the way that we have it. That's all we have for you guys today. I feel like I could talk about this topic for a whole week. It's so awesome. But again, we'll see what happens once we get in the regular season. Once Fantilli comes in, that's all important stuff. Tomorrow, we're going to be handling David Juracek and Stanislav Svozil's season review. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. Thank you for making this your first listen every day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms, YouTube, and the SiriusXM app. I'm Hayden Houshorn. You can find me on Twitter at HaydenH971. You can find Jay on Twitter at _Jacob Foster. You can find the show at LO_Blue Jackets. You can also email us, lockedonbluejackets@gmail.com. Thank you once again for listening. And until tomorrow, make sure you stay locked on.